So this is for Wyatt, who had a request about jazz guitar, and I just want to sort of preface this by saying I'm very much learning jazz guitar, but I can really speak to a lot of the techniques that build up jazz because I've used them as songwriting tools. The sort of book of jazz harmony, I take from it all the time, and it's how I build a lot of riffs. It's how I think about harmony. It's sort of my foundation. But just know that I'm not, you're not being taught by Joe Pass. You're not being taught by Kurt Rosenwinkel or Wes Montgomery, and sort of the things that you'll need before you're able to really start playing jazz. You got to be able to play your major scale. You have to be able to play your major scale in chords. You have to be able to play it in seventh chords. What am I doing? And then later on down the line, we'll talk about ways to sort of spice up your chord vocabulary. But for now, the main thing is just know your scale as chords, and know your scale as seventh chords, 4-note chords. And then you'll have sort of what you need to be able to play jazz. The very first step after you have those prerequisites is to learn a tune. It's really that easy. It can be any tune. I recommend the ones that are overplayed because they sort of make up the music. I chose Autumn Leaves, and so I'll be talking about Autumn Leaves, but you can choose all the things you are, especially if you're interested in changing keys. That's a great one to go to. It's kind of weird, and so you're starting off with some weird material, but that I don't think that that's necessarily going to hurt you, Chick Corea was very influenced by Scriabin, perhaps, like the weirdest of that set of composers, and Chick Corea, because of that, he's a very interesting player and somebody that there's nobody like him. There's nobody who comes close to that sound. So I encourage you, if the tune that you want to learn is weird, then learn that and just really know it inside and out. Try to learn it in every key. Try to be able to sing all of it. Try to be able to improvise over it, in really simple, melodic ways. I'm going to talk about Autumn Leaves. And the reason I'm going to talk about Autumn Leaves is because the chord progression has this motion. And I think you can really clearly hear the sort of structure of the song, and something very important is happening with that. In jazz, you're going to use Roman numerals to indicate which chord you're gonna play, and the big reason that you're going to do that is because it'll tell you about chord function. Chord function can become a long, sort of convoluted story, but more or less there are 3 kinds of chord functions. There's tonic, or like home. Think of tonic as, that's home. There is a dominant function, which is it wants to go home. And then there's predominant function, which I love. And that's just, it doesn't really need to go home. Like, you can go home, but it's not, like, that's not where it needs to go. And so a lot of times you use predominant chords to go into dominant chords to go home, to go to tonic chords. The 1 and the 6 are the tonic chords. Right? You know, lots of songs start off that way. Gravity is working against me. Gravity, one chord. You can do all sorts of stuff over it. It feels at rest. It doesn't need to go anywhere. You know, you can just live on this chord forever. You know, the sixth chord is the same way. It's what you call the relative minor of the one. Just meaning that, you know, this major chord shares a lot of notes with this minor chord. And that minor chord, it's the same thing. I can't think of a song right off the bat, but it's everywhere. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Only darkness every day. You know, it's home. That's the like minor chord. That's the home of that song. And jazz is mostly built on what you call 2/5s. The 2 chord is a predominant chord. I'll use a regular voicing of it. A minor and G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2. And the other predominant chord is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in G, the tonic chords are going to be G and E minor. The predominant chords are going to be A minor and C. And then the dominant chords, which are the ones that want to go to either G or E minor, they're going to be the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only like to play that down there. And those want to go there. So you got a lot of like... a little bit of a tangent, but kind of important. So the 2-5-1, what you're doing is you're going from predominant to dominant to tonic. You're going from somewhere to take me home to home. 2-5-1. 2, 5. And you can do all sorts of things to the 5 to make it more dissonant. 1. And this song, what happens is you have a 2 and a 5, and then you can actually treat the next chords like a 2 and a 5, and then the next chord's like a 2 and a 5, and the E minor is your 1. There we go. Since you went away, the days grow long, and soon I'll sing cold winter song. But I miss you most of all, my darling. When the autumn leaves start to fall. That's the basics, you know. Learn a tune and figure out what the Roman numerals of it are. And we're in the key of G. I need to be able to say 2, 5, 1, 4, 7, 3 with a funny note, 6, 2, 5, 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 7, 3, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, 7, 3, 6, 7, 3, 6. That's step 1. And then we'll talk about some of the other funny stuff that I was doing where it's like you're spicing up the chords, because that is most of what I wrote about. So, alright, signing out. Sorry it's rambly.